All right, everyone, let's get right into it. The JEE Main April 6th morning shift is done. The initial reactions are pouring in, and we've been looking at the numbers. Let's break down exactly what you need to know.
Okay, let's start with the one question that's on absolutely everyone's mind. Just how tough was this paper, really?
And wow, the first reactions coming out of the exam centers were pretty intense. A lot of students felt this wasn't just another shift. For them, it felt like the toughest one so far this session.
So, once the dust settled and the experts weighed in, a clear picture emerged. The consensus is that the paper was definitely in the moderate to tough range. But, the real kicker for so many of you was the length. Time management was a huge, huge factor.
So, how does the shift actually stack up against the others? Well, it was definitely a noticeable step up in difficulty from the April 5th paper. But if we zoom out and look at the whole year, the general feeling is that it was still a bit more manageable than the January session papers. So, yeah, it was tough, but maybe not the toughest we've seen all year.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How did this difficulty actually break down across physics, chemistry, and math? This is where you can really see the personality of this particular paper.
And yeah, no surprises here, mathematics was the real marathon of this paper. The questions themselves were moderate in difficulty, but they were so lengthy. This was hands down the most time-consuming section for most students. You had big topics like vectors in 3D, calculus, and matrices that all just required a ton of calculation and time.
Physics also fell into that moderate bucket. Now, a lot of the questions were formula-based, which is great, but they weren't simple plug-and-chug problems. You really had to be careful with your calculations, and they could get pretty long, especially in those heavy-hitter topics like optics, current electricity, and mechanics.
And finally, we have chemistry. On the surface, it seemed very doable, mostly based on the NCERT syllabus, but it had some tricks up its sleeve. The paper was really dominated by these calculative and kind of tricky questions from physical chemistry, which kept everyone on their toes. If you were strong in topics like chemical kinetics, you definitely had an edge. Okay, so we've established the paper was moderate to tough. But what does that actually mean for your score and your percentile? Let's translate this feeling of difficulty into the cold, hard numbers that really matter. All right, take a look at this table. This is where things get really interesting. Because the paper was tougher, the marks you need to hit a certain percentile are actually a bit lower than they would be in an easier shift. That's good news. Just take a second to find where your estimated score might fall here. So what was the magic number for this paper? The key benchmark? Well, all the analysis points to this, a score of 160 or more. That was likely the score you needed to aim for to break into that coveted 99th percentile club. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit from just this one shift and talk about the bigger picture. We're talking about the expected qualifying cutoffs for JEE Advanced, the gateway to the IITs. And just to be super clear on what this is, the qualifying cutoff is not about getting into a specific college. It's the minimum percentile you need to even be eligible to sit for the JEE Advanced exam. It's the first big hurdle you have to clear. And here are those crucial numbers. This table gives you the expected qualifying percentile and, maybe more importantly, the estimated range of marks you'll need for each category. So, for the general category, we're projecting a range somewhere between 90 and 115 marks. And you can see how that changes for OBC, EWS, SC, and SD candidates. This chart gives you a really nice visual of those mark ranges. You can see right away that the bar for the general category is significantly higher. And it's interesting to see how the expected cutoffs for the OBC and EWS categories are projected to be really close to each other. All right, you have the analysis, you have the numbers, the exam is over, but that's not the end. It's really the beginning of the next phase. So what should you be doing right now? Here is your 4-step action plan. Step 1, when the official answer keys come out, download them and get an accurate score. Step 2, use rank predictor tools online to get a good estimate of your all-India rank. Step 3, start playing around with college predictors to see what your options might be. And finally, Step 4, mark your calendar, because the official results are expected around April 20th. This is all about shifting from waiting and worrying to actively planning. So there you have it. We've gone through the paper, we've looked at the scores, and we've talked about the road ahead. The next move? Well, that's up to you. What's it going to be?